I'm going to talk about supporting people with FTD, fFTD, and PPA and their families. My name is Nikki Zimmermann. I'm the direct support lead at Rare Dementia Support here in London. Now the next slide, please, Claire. So Rare Dementia Support is a world-leading UK-based service led by University College London in their Dementia Research Centre. It's a mixture of professionals, academics, researchers, clinical staff, support staff. We all work together in a very collaborative way. And our main aim is to empower, guide and inform people living with a rare dementia diagnosis, and for all of those that care with them as well. Next slide, please, Claire. So let's have a sort of look at our backstory. Like I said, we are based at the Dementia Research Centre, which is part of the Institute of Neurology at UCL. And we were first established with doing support groups, and it was a FTD support group that was first established in 1994 by one of our nurses there, Jill Walton. And Jill set up a small support group for carers of people with FTD. She really felt that there was nothing out there for people. We were seeing lots of people in clinic at the time and wanted to aid some support. So let's fast forward 26 years on now, and we are bigger than we were then, bigger than ever. We are now funded essentially by the National Brain Appeal, and we have 20 support groups per year now. We also have one-to-one support by the direct support team. We have 25 regional groups, and some of them are mixed groups, some of them are subtype groups, FTD groups, PPA groups. We also run small group discussions now, and we've got a thriving buddying network. Thanks, Claire. So the Rare Dementia Support membership, we have got over 2,000 members on our membership now. People sign up weekly via our website, and this puts them directly onto our mailing list, where they can receive resources, information, get one-to-one support, join in our groups, or just come to us for any sort of questions that's going, get involved with research and numerous amounts of things. And out of these members, we have people living with a rare dementia, people worried about a rare dementia, caregivers, family members, friends, colleagues, and we have a lot of health professionals and students that just want to extend their knowledge and want to be able to help their patients better. Thank you, Claire. So the direct support team that I run is a small but very, very effective team. I call it my dream team, and working with me is Claire, who's behind the scenes today, and we also have Livy as well as the dementia support team. And we've just got a new arrival, Hannah, who's just joined us as an admin nurse, and Hannah will be working on more sort of complex sort of cases. So the one-to-one support that we provide is pre-diagnosis, peri and post-diagnosis. And this can be via email, via telephone or video call. And we have members sort of from all over the world. We have a lot of members through our clinic. John is very much involved with at Queen Square. We have other members that come from different clinics within London, but we also do have a lot of people that contact us from different countries in the world. And quite often our support starts at pre-diagnosis, when caregivers are looking at sort of their partners and they're noticing signs, they don't really know what to do with them, where they need to go, or possibly they've already been to the GP, possibly they're already in the memory service and they've been assessed for cognitive problems through a memory service and been told that their memory is absolutely fine, but their personality isn't, their behaviour isn't, their speech isn't. So we have to help them navigate them for a correct assessment. So we work with our teams and our contacts looking for sort of specialist cognitive neurologists sort of locally to people, or we can, if they can access London, come into the clinic at London. We deal a lot with post-diagnostic support, so the care planning afterwards, understanding the symptoms, understanding the diagnosis, what that's going to mean for the person, mean for the family, what care needs to be put into place. And that can be a lot of practical support as well, looking at lasting power of attorney, what services that they need to put into place, how they going to start living day to day, what adaptations they may need in the home, what what sort of care planning needs to go into their sort of daily routines now. Lots and lots of different sort of elements goes into the support course. And we rely as well also on a lot of external support. We're very lucky at RDS. We have our own speech and language therapist who is extremely helpful for all our members. But we also have really good contacts in health and social care teams sort of all over the country. Lots of contacts with home care providers, providing sort of respite, providing extra support for people in the home. So, you know, we can't do everything on our own. We've got a great lot of teams to help provide that sort of holistic support. And coping strategies as well. Coping strategies are sort of, now you've got this diagnosis, now we know what the situation is, how do people get on with their lives and cope as best as they possibly can. There's lots of carer and family support involved, because as everybody knows, when somebody has a diagnosis, it doesn't just affect them, it affects the whole family. And with frontotemporal dementia, we know that people often get this when they're a lot younger, so they may have younger members of family, they may still be working, they're in the middle of their lives, they didn't expect this to happen, so a lot of support needs to go into place. And empowerment as well. If people have the insight, and especially we have a lot of members with PPA that are very insightful to their problems, and we try as much as we can to work with them on empowerment. So, you know, they are having an active role in their care planning. At the end of the day, it's all about them and identifying what their needs, with the carers working with them to provide some real stability and real sort of forward planning going forward together. Thank you, Claire. So a lot of the common issues that people come to us and we help with, obsessions, there's lots of different obsessions that we have, and we have people that have obsessions with lots of different things, you know, from sort of eating lots of sweet food, having to have ice cream for breakfast, having to make the same meal for lunch every day. I spoke to a lady yesterday and her husband must have cottage pie for lunch every day. You know, we speak to other people that they really need to collect things, you know, collect toys, collect balls, feed the wild animals in the garden first thing every morning. It can be really sort of interesting what their obsessions are, but really important the family to work with those, to build that structure around those as well. So, you know, routines, it can be quite difficult at the start when people with FTD have got really strict sort of routines that they want to stick to actually get the family to actually work with that. It's very difficult, we know, when people lose empathy and sort of the emotional sort of support that we give to loved ones who are sort of coping with this, that, you know, as one of the speakers said earlier, you know, it's not the same person I married. That loving, caring husband is no longer showing any emotion. That is really difficult to cope with. We've had lots of issues where there's been a lot of excessive money spending, and we're very lucky we've got our own legal team that we can help with these issues as well. Sweet tooth, how, you know, we help people with coping strategies, with dietary requirements and making changes with that. And obviously personality changes and how that makes things different. We have a lot of issues with people with disinhibition and changes in sexual behaviour. And in our FTD Support Group meeting next week, we've got a specialist speaker coming on to talk about this. It's always that sensitive, taboo subjects that people don't really want to talk about, however they need the answers. So it's really good to be able to open up that communication. And obviously communication skills with a lot of our members that do have PPA. We have lots of sort of questions that come in and we deal with that. And as I said, we're very lucky to have Anna, our speech and language therapist, which can help with all these questions. Thank you, Claire. So COVID-19 came into place at the beginning of this year and we were locked down. This really was a game changer for everybody, not just sort of us as the way we worked. We were all sent home straight away to work, and everybody's been working from home since. Been working very successfully, I should say. But it was, you know, it was a huge blow for sort of people that living in the community with FTD and in care homes as well. So what we did is we attempted some proactive support. We contacted all 2,000 of our members and basically said, please come to us. We know your needs are going to be magnified now, and we want to know that you are we are here to support you. And there was an increase in needs, and everything sort of quadrupled overnight. We were absolutely inundated by people. And people were isolated. They were isolated before, as you've actually rightly said, but a lot of people found this really difficult. They were so used to their routines with the day centre, with their singing groups, with their trips to the cafes, trips out at night. They had that great routine, and they couldn't have them anymore, and they felt really isolated. If I could say one thing from all our phone calls and our emails from people, what people missed, it really was going for a nice walk and going to the cafe, have coffee and cake. That was the number one thing that really sort of came home to me, the simplicity in life, which really affected people. And understanding restrictions. How do you tell somebody who has FTD, who wants to hug everybody that they meet in the street, that you have to social distance, that you can't get closer than 2 meters from people? How do you tell people with semantic dementia that can't understand things that you have to wear a mask? These things just did not work. So it was really understanding the restrictions and, helping people cope with these. And as I said, the change in services, the day centres were shut, but also hospital and clinic appointments were being cancelled as well. And there was a lot of anxious people out there needing reassurance. What can we do instead? How will we get the information? So we spent a lot of time communicating with the clinics as well. And what was really apparent as well was the disease progression as sort of the months went on, and the fear from people that they were actually going to come out of this pandemic with a completely different person that they went into the pandemic with. We could see people were digressive because of not having that social stimulation, and this was really concerning. And we spent a lot of time talking through people of what could help, what we could put in place, but just to reassure people as well. Thank you, Claire. So we'll talk about our support group meetings, and these were our support group meetings pre-COVID. So we had quarterly meetings for FTD and also for PPA. So they were 2 completely separate meetings. And these were physical meetings, which we held in London. We had a beautiful building near Euston Station, so very central for people to get to. And in our meetings, we normally had about 100 members attend. It was lovely seeing everybody every sort of few months, greeting them at the top of the stairs, listening to their stories, just keeping up with people. It really was something that we really loved doing at RDS. We also had an annual seminar, which we had in March every year, and we would have about 200 members that would attend this. And that would be a mixture of people living with FTD or PPA and their caregivers, their families, their friends, and health professionals. So we had a full day packed of different talks, academic, clinical, research, lived experience, coping strategies, practical help, lots of things went into this. John runs the fFTD meeting every year. There's one group a year that meets there. He has a lot of contact with them in between times. He spoke a bit about that earlier, and I'll touch on it again in a bit. And at our support group meetings, we always have clinical and academic speakers. We always have some research updates. We have some help, practical help, and that is often with the speech and language therapist. We also get an occupational therapist, other health professionals, or sort of other organisations which can help. Again, sort of home care organisations are also really good at coming in to give talks, Department of Work and Pensions, the legal team, lots of different things which would be really helpful for people. And we always have some lived experience, and that may be in the form of somebody with a diagnosis, or it may be a caregiver given their experience. We always spend a lot of time within our meetings allowing people to meet each other, because we have people that come from a really vast geographical area. They would often come to our meetings and think that they would be the only person with FTD or PPA, and then they come into a room with 100 people all in the same situation. So actually people linking them together is so important. So we always have lots of coffee breaks and a long lunch to enable people to mingle and to get to know each other. And then in the afternoon, we split the groups into small group discussions as well, so we can have more focused topics for people to get more valuable information from in a smaller sort of arena. Thank you, Claire. And then, obviously, at the beginning of the year, when COVID came and the Welcome Centre, which we used, shut down, we had to transfer to a virtual platform. So we managed to do that using the same platform as we use here, GoToMeeting. Lots of our IT savvy staff were very clear on how we could transfer this over, and we did it very successfully. We still managed to get 100 people attending the meetings. Obviously, because they didn't have to travel, we had people coming from all over the world attending these meetings. It was lovely when we could look at our attendance list and see people from Canada, from America, from Australia, from Japan, all over the place were tuning into our meetings. And also because of this, we could have an increase of health professionals joining. So it was really good on the educational side for them. And we actually had to do this pretty damn quickly as well, because lockdown came to the UK on the 23rd of March, and we had our annual seminar booked and completely organised for March the 30th. So we had to change everything over to the virtual platform really quickly. The positives of this is we have managed to sort of reach out to many more clinical and academic speakers who could always sort of have an excuse why they couldn't come along and spare the time for a day in London. Now we just need them to record their talks, and we've managed to do that very successfully. We can really help within these talks, giving some really practical help on some really sensitive issues. As I said, we are tackling in our next FTD support group meeting next Wednesday the issue of hypersexuality. And this is a great topic we really need to cover, but we also realise that in an open forum, if we were having a physical meeting, some people might feel slightly embarrassed about this and slightly embarrassed about asking any personal questions. With the beauty of the virtual platform, you can do this all anonymously from the comfort of your own home. So this has really opened up to different sort of levels of support for us. And we also have some lived experience in this. Then we can also get people to do their own recordings in the comfort of their own home, and this has been really successful. And we always have a really good question and answer sort of session. So although we can't see people and we can't talk to them, they can see us, but they can send their questions to us. Thank you, Claire. As John talked about, the familiar FTD support group that his team run, and it's a much smaller group, obviously. They still get about 50, 60 people coming to their meetings annually. The majority of the group are children of people with familiar FTD. So the person has actually gone through the genetic testing. They know that their FTD is genetic, and the children are often sort of in quandary of whether they want that test or not. There's people there that have been tested, people that haven't. And these are mostly people in their 20s, 30s and 40s. Lots of peer support in this group to support others that are in the same situation, whether they've been tested, whether they're thinking about being tested. And obviously the topics that they will be discussing are the genetic testing and what that means for them, the family planning. Lots of them are getting into research studies, which they get further support with. But, you know, there's a real psychological impact for that. So bringing people together in this support group is completely vital. Thanks, Claire. So what else did we do reacting to COVID-19? Because obviously, you know, people whose lives were quite rightly quite sort of small and narrow, as you've actually said, we're even finding that even more difficult in some cases. Some people cope with them really, really well, but other people really was a bit of a pushing point for them, and they really needed to see sort of other people in the same situation. So we made up some small group discussion groups, so groups of about 12 people, and it was a bit like a sort of Zoom sort of get together, so everybody could see each other, they could ask each other's questions, they could share their experiences together, they could support each other. And we've been doing this for a few months now. It's been really, really successful, and some great outcomes came out of it. And I think the best thing is people have really made friends with this. They've really become buddies, and we do have a buddy and network, but this has really just increased this immensely. Thanks, Claire. And yeah, so the buddy and network. So as I said, the lockdown really magnified isolation for people. You know, they really did feel alone, especially in the rural areas. I really think that really had an effect on them. So we had lots of individual requests for them, but it was really exaggerated by the small group discussions, so people were making friends there. We were very made it very clear to people that it wasn't a mentoring issue with this, it was absolutely peer support. So, it was very mutual, the support going in. And because it was all going to be either by telephone or email or Zoom, it really didn't matter where people lived. So geography was not an issue. We have people that are meeting together on Zoom. One lives in Kent and the other lives in Australia. We have a lady in the Isle of Skye meeting with another lady in Ireland. It's absolutely fantastic, how this has actually worked from people, and they're really getting support from this. And we have really created a new generation of Zoomers out there. Who would think a few years ago we would all be communicating like this? But we are doing it, and we're doing it extremely well. Thank you, Claire. Information. We have a lot of information. We have fantastic fact sheets, which John was talking about, the FTD talk, which we've got them here. A lot of the professionals don't know about them. A lot of people, when they're first diagnosed, don't know about them. There's about 12 in the set. Just one page, 2 sides, very basic information, but really important information for people to share with family and friends, and to share with health professionals as well. We often get messages, have conversations with our members who have got diagnosed, especially of PPA or one of the forms of PPAs. Well, I spoke to my GP and they said, I've never heard of it. Okay, they may not have heard of it, but they need to hear about it now. So it's great to be able to print off these fact sheets and give them to them. We also, because we're part of the Dementia Research Centre, we work with a lot of the researchers, so we have access to a lot of the academic journals if people want further, more intensive reading. And of course, we work with lots of different partnership organisations as well, so lots of external resources we can get our hands on. We are really making a push for external talks as well now, so out to health and social care professionals, getting them to understand what FTD is, understand what PPA is, how it is so different from Alzheimer's disease. Speaking to memory services, speaking to GP teams, it's really important that they get this on their agenda and start acting with this as well. And we're doing lots of talks for students. Recently, I've been doing talks for paramedic students. We've educated 500 paramedic students in the last few years. And yesterday, I was in London talking to some counselling students, and how important that is for people wanting counselling to actually be able to go to a counsellor and they've actually heard of FTD and PPA and what the effect that can have on people's lives, and in fact, the effect that it's really having for carers as well. Thank you, Claire. So the future of RDS, we will be carrying on for our virtual support at the moment, because we really don't know what's happening here. I mean, in the UK, we've been told another 6 months we're going to be like this. So at some point in the future, we would love to return to our physical meetings, but only when it's safe to do so. And in the pipeline for the future, we have got the creation of a centre for rare dementia, a physical centre, which will be wonderful. It'll be a fantastic building full of holistic support where people can come for support, come and just make a cup of tea and talk to someone. They can go into the pods, they can do some research with one of the academics, they can have well-being services. There's lots of things that we've really got planned for this. So this is a very exciting future for RDS. And the last one. And thank you very much for listening to me. Anybody is welcome to subscribe to our membership. Here's the link now. And if anybody's got any other questions outside of this, I am more than happy to answer them. And I would just like to thank my fantastic team again, Claire and Livy and Hannah, to enable us to deliver this fantastic service.